Shalom, my Hebrews and Shebrews. I'm Christian for real, and this is Correctly Incorrect. How's everybody doing today? I'm Christian for real. This is Correctly Incorrect. And with today's topic, I'm going to talk about the demise of the NFL. Now, when I say the demise of the NFL, I don't mean it's going to completely tank, but I feel like this is something that can really affect the NFL and where it's going to go and where it's going to take itself in the future. Now, a lot of people can say, well, the negative publicity that the NFL is getting because of the protesting, that's hurting viewership. I don't think that's really going to affect the NFL in the long run. They're going to get past that. Is it a catch? Is it not a catch? I don't think that's really going to affect the NFL in the long run. And with the player safety and player concussions, I don't think that's going to affect the NFL in the long run. But what I do think will really be the demise of the NFL is fantasy football. Now, hear me out before you say, well, you're crazy. How is fantasy football going to hurt the NFL? It's helping the NFL. Yes, when you look at the viewership on a short-term basis, yes, it does help the NFL because it does bring in a market that normally would not watch football. But in the same breath, that also hurts football because now you have people that have never played or coached the game trying to dictate on how the game is going to be officiated or really ran going forward. Case in point, a lot of people now are turning to the NFL and going off of analytics. This is a game that you can't go off of analytics. You have to go off the eye test. Perfect example. Dez Bryant currently is not on a team. Now, the NFL season, as we all know, has just kicked off, and we've had our first week of football. He's still not on a team. Statistics will tell you that Dez Bryant is on a decline, but considering that the Cowboys have just lost their first game, Dez Bryant could definitely have been a factor in that game in helping the Cowboys maybe not win, but just have a different outcome on the way that offense looked. Fantasy football, a lot of people are going to pick Antonio Bryant as a top wide receiver. No knock on Antonio Bryant. He is an excellent wide receiver, but considering that he's had Ben Roethlisberger his whole career, that makes a difference on his production. Look at another receiver like DeAndre Hopkins, who puts up similar numbers, but look at the quarterbacks that DeAndre Hopkins has had. TJ Yates, Brian Hoyer, Brock Osweiler. Now he has Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson was hurt half of the season last year. When you put that into perspective with the eye test, DeAndre Hopkins is a great receiver. Antonio Brown is a great receiver. But let's switch them. Put Antonio Brown on the Texans and put DeAndre Hopkins with the Steelers. Are you going to get the same exact stats? I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows, but I have a strong inkling that they're not going to put up similar numbers. I think DeAndre Hopkins would actually be even better. Antonio Brown, I think, would have a decline. Now, let's bring in the fantasy football aspect to that. You're going to pick players depending on what team and what production they're going to put up. But if you look at a situation how Odell Beckham Jr. was hurt all last season, that really hurts your fantasy football team. But considering that his first game back for this new season, he put up over 10 receptions and over 100 yards. So now everyone's happy, but, you know, fantasy football is going to dictate on how you're going to pick players going forward, because now it's very hard to hit the quarterback because you don't know where you can hit the quarterback. It's going to be very hard for strong safeties to hit a wide receiver and hard for linebackers to hit a tight end or wide receiver because of defensive players and how they put that rule in the game now. I have a strong feeling that has something to do with fantasy football. The NFL is making a lot of money off of fantasy football. Fantasy football makes a lot of money off the NFL. It's a partnership. That makes sense. So for DraftKings or any other fantasy football organization to really profit off the NFL, you have to make sure certain players are on the field every week. You don't want Aaron Rodgers, even though he did get hurt in the first game, you don't want him gone for a whole nother season. You don't want Tom Brady gone for a whole nother season. You want Gronkowski gone for a whole season. You don't want certain players getting hurt because those are the players that people are going to pick due to their production. Off their production, they have to be on the field. You're going to pick that person in DraftKings, and you're going to put up so much money depending on who's on your team. So tell me this, if you picked Odell Beckham Jr. as your number one wide receiver last year and he was hurt all season, you really got screwed. So now they're going to put rules in place to make sure someone like Odell Beckham Jr. is not going to get hurt. How do you do that? Defenseless player. Come on now. You want to make sure Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt? Make the tackle box, I guess you can call it, for a quarterback even harder to hit the quarterback. More personal fouls, more reviews for touchdowns to make sure that it is a touchdown or is not a touchdown. Every turnover gets reviewed. We have to make sure, did that person fumble? Was that an interception? Fantasy football is going to lead to more reviews, more stoppage, more rules in the game of football. Look at college football. College football, you don't have as many stoppages. You don't have, as many issues. Is it a catch? Is it not a catch? Is that a coincidence? I know it's considered amateur, but imagine if there was fantasy football for the college. Imagine if there was fantasy basketball for the NBA. A referee could dictate the flow of the game so much in the NBA. If a certain player gets in foul trouble, it's not a coincidence that the NBA does not have fantasy basketball. You could do it for baseball, though. Baseball would work because the injury rate and everything like that would be a lot lower, and you can pretty much determine if a ball is foul or if it's a home run. So it's a little bit easier doing it in baseball, but with basketball, it would not fly. And with football, I feel like fantasy football is dictating on how the game is being officiated, how it's being ran, because it has to go hand in hand. You want to provide certain protection for certain players in certain positions to make sure they're on the field, so that way fantasy football can prosper and the NFL can prosper. And I'm telling you, in the long run, that's going to be the demise of the NFL. But hey, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right. This is why this is correctly incorrect. So just make sure you serenade that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that like button. Also leave a comment. Tell me whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, and just make sure that when you tell me I'm wrong, give me examples on why I'm wrong. And if you think that I'm right, hey, give me a pat on the back or hit that like button. But I'm going to stop this rambling for today. I'm Christian for real. You guys have a great day.